3, 2, 1. And we're live. What's up, everybody?
Hey.
My name's Charlie. For those of you who have never seen my face before.
And I'm Nathan.
Yeah. We're the co-founders.
Sorry to show you the faces.
Yeah. We're the co-founders of Sightbox. So if you're not familiar with the agency, give us the... Yeah, we're in our studio right now, but give us the 30-second version of it.
So we are a branding agency that is focused on startups. So we work with a lot of tech startups and some later stage startups, but mostly in the tech field, bringing them to market.
Yeah, and the reason we're on camera today, we've got another podcast where we just chat about random stuff, but we had a bit of an experience. I say we, but me mostly, I guess. I brought this up this weekend.
Charlie's inspired.
Yeah, I'm always inspired by something. So this might actually be dropped in LinkedIn. So if you're seeing it on LinkedIn, hang on with us. Keep watching or listening, whatever. So what we wanted to do is talk about something a little bit different. So I go to church. You go to church.
I go to church.
Some of you go to church. That's kind of irrelevant, but that's a place where I get inspired, like quite a bit. You know, you'll get a speaker, I'll bring a message. And what I typically do when I hear a really good one is I think, how does that apply to my life in other ways other than spiritually, meaning business-wise?
Yeah.
And there's a lot of parallels and a lot of these messages that apply to business. So I've written notes, over the last couple of weeks, and I just wanted to talk about them, see if some of you out there are entrepreneurs or, it doesn't matter if you're, in an organization where you lead. There's probably some parallels that you can get from this as well. So this is a new series. We don't know what we're going to call it yet. It's sort of like the Sunday special, but on a Tuesday or whatever.
Yeah.
It's Tuesday.
Yeah.
That's, in essence, what we want to do is we'll get inspired and recharged on a Sunday, and then on Tuesday, whenever we get together, we'll talk about it and see if there's anything parallels out there that we find that maybe can be beneficial to you. So, and if you've got any of your own, or if you relate to any of these or have any comments or feedback, please just drop them here in the comments, specifically in LinkedIn, because there's a lot of business people, a lot of entrepreneurs on here, a lot of managers, people that lead, that may get something out of it. So
Yeah, absolutely. And just a little background too, sort of one of the things that also brought Charlie and I together as business partners was our faith. And so
yeah, true.
It was definitely something that we aligned on. And, I'll be honest, in my experience in sort of the marketing advertising world, faith and specifically Christianity is sort of a touchy subject. Yeah. So, and there's good reason for that. I mean, there's a lot of good examples of Christian examples out there of living, and a lot of good, bad ones. So I get that. So, but just as a disclaimer, this is sort of, this is us just sort of talking about it, what sort of speaks to us. We don't speak for the Christian world.
No,
per se.
Absolutely, yeah.
But we're just these are sort of observations and things that sort of stood out to us, and things that we thought were sort of relevant, not just in our faith life, but in our business and working with companies and for ourselves. So
for sure. So let me just dive in here to some of my notes.
Yeah, go for it.
You talked about us getting together. So the quick backstory is I went on my own 2011. That's when I sort of ventured into entrepreneurship. And
took the leap.
I took the leap, yeah. Swallowed the red pill.
The red pill,
or whatever it is, yeah. But what I find interesting is that I actually, in the beginning, prided myself on sort of like this, what we called solopreneur. Mm-hmm. I thought I could do it all, one-man band, only I'm accountable to me. I do what I want, you know what I mean? And And it felt good in the beginning. And then after a little while, you plateau and you start to realize that that's not the way it's meant to be. That's not to say some of you out there that are riding Lone Ranger aren't going to succeed. That's just to say, I guess, for me that I didn't realize what I was missing until we got together. Yeah. And then I convinced you and I pulled you out of the matrix.
Yes.
It was this whole like two are better than one.
Yeah.
Right. And part of what I learned this weekend was just this theme of community. Right. And if you really think about it in all aspects of life, it's really humans are designed to be in community. Mm-hmm. That's the way we were designed. That's the way the animal kingdom works, nature, right? And there's so many parallels there that for me, a light bulb clicked and it was like, yeah, it wasn't until there was two of us that we started to really, blow this business up, in our own way. And that really connected with me, the sense of community. So I would say, if I could encourage, if I can speak to the solopreneur, you don't have to go out and find a partner, get in a group, an entrepreneur group, go to meetups, expand your network of people you work closely with. And together you guys could really, create something good. And if you're a leader in an organization, you probably know. If you're higher up, you know this already. Like, you're not going to move very far by yourself, You got to be aligned. Yeah. And in community means, you're sort of in sound mind, sort of, and have a common goal. Yeah. Right? Yeah. So I think that's what I got out of that.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's a lonely world. It's a lonely path, I mean, you're essentially just saying, like, I'm going to go, and when they say go on your own, like, go on alone is almost more like it. Yeah. And so it's scary. And I'll be honest with you too, like when, I was working in ad agencies for 15 years, and there were moments probably every other year or so where I just got this urge. I was like, I'm going to start my own thing, I mean, I was really sort of blessed in the beginning to work for a lot of agencies that the founders still were there. Be it design studios. I mean, the guy who started it's there. He's still working. He's got a corner office. He's still doing it. Even to ad agencies like the Richards Group, where I would, interact with Stan Richards almost on a daily basis. So I sort of saw that and I was like, well, okay, so I could do this, but how, right? How do I do it? And to be honest, at most agencies you're at, the idea of starting an agency, you really don't have those conversations. Or if you do, people are like, yeah, that's maybe for later. Or you'll have creative teams that go and do it. I mean, that's how sort of like Wyden and Kennedy started and stuff like that. So you have these sort of spin-off things that happen once in a while, but it doesn't happen every day. And so, I had talked about it with different people throughout the day, throughout the years. But no one was sort of crazy enough to sort of take that dive, to say, take that leap and say, let's leave it all. Let's try this and build something. But without someone else, I just didn't have the gumption to do it, didn't have the confidence to just go out and try. And so it sort of, I laugh sometimes because it took someone who kind of wasn't in that world to kind of pull me out of it, and say, Charlie's like, let's just do this. And so anyway, yeah, that's been kind of my journey, and it's been an interesting one. It's, anyone you talk to about doing startups and doing, entrepreneurial stuff, it's crazy. It's scary. It's pretty white knuckle. It's a white knuckle sport. So anytime you can have someone there to kind of help you when you're down, you need that. And that's sort of been our partnership too. I think luckily, whenever one of us is sort of in the dumps, the other one's going to sort of instinctively say, hey, snap out of it and it's going to be all right. We're going to get through it. And so that's a good thing. And like you said, Charlie, you don't necessarily have to have a co-founder, a business partner in that way. You can always have a mentor, someone who's there to do that. But someone who's there to really be there with you, understands exactly what you're going through. That's key. That's key. And like you said, in some ways, I think we're designed that way.
Absolutely. I was actually trying to look up, I may have wrote the wrong notes here, but
Sorry.
there was something here that that I wrote down, and again, I'll put a disclaimer on this. Like, don't, I realize there's people down here that don't, have the same faith we do, and that's fine. Like, sometimes scripture, people can interpret it different ways. So, some of you, faith is something else, and we're trying not to get too religious here, right? But these are parallels we're trying to draw. Is basically what we're trying to do in the themes here. But anyways, that the community piece is just like, it's a word that doesn't really get used in business, right? Much.
Not much.
And so I'm curious to see what you guys' thoughts are. But like I said, for me, it's just teaming up and getting stuff done, and startups too. If you're a startup founder, it can be frustrating. We have a startup, and even we've struggled as two to get that thing launched, right? Because we need to align ourselves with, the right people, and it's difficult, but definitely we know we're better off as a unit than alone. So sometimes two can feel like one, right? In some instances. So there's that. If you don't mind, I'll jump to sort of my next note here. So a few weeks ago, or a couple of weeks ago, and I'll put the name, depending on where you're watching this, I'll put the name of the speaker just to give him props. But I heard this concept of the Changeover Box.
You were talking
about this?
That, yeah.
So those of you that are familiar with what would you call it? Relay racing.
Yeah.
There's this thing called the Changeover Box, and essentially what that means is there's this sort of, I don't know if it's actually drawn in the track or not, but there's this area of the field where the runner is coming back with the baton full speed, and then the next runner is taking off full speed.
Right, waiting.
And they have to, they're waiting for the handoff. And essentially they're moving as fast. They're both sort of, aligned in a way where one has to hand it off and one has to take off without any lag, right? And transition smoothly. And they have, and they say that if I'm quoting this correctly, that races are won or lost in that box. I mean, literally gold or no gold. Like, races are won or lost in that box. And then I started thinking about it, and how does that relate to business? Everybody's kind of on a race, whether you're in a marathon or you're in a sprint. There's a race. And if we apply the community concept to this, there's going to be two of you at least, right? The relay race, there's 4, which means there's got to be 3 handoffs at some point. And the idea is to get the handoff to be as smooth as possible. So where do entrepreneurs fail? Where do businesses fail? And it's in that box, right? And people always say, step outside the box, or, you're thinking,
think outside the box.
Think outside the box.
Yeah.
So those are the things that sort of clicked with me. It's like, okay, what does that mean to think outside the box or get out of the box? Well, you're in a race. So when you're going, what's that next thing that you got to sort of hand off, right?
Yeah.
And let someone else help you take to the next level. Because every lap's a new level. Everybody's trying to reach a goal. So what is that, how does that resonate with you? Like, I think about that and I'm like, that makes so much sense to me, when you feel stuck, when you're like, man, this just feel like the grind, we're not progressing. You can't just not, you got to move out of that box, like that changeover box.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and what kind of speaks to me too is the idea of sort of one of the things with business and stuff like that is it really exposes you for all the things you're sort of good at and not good at.
Yeah.
Right. And so it's not like, like I said, like most jobs, you can kind of sit and you've got your role, you've got your title, you've got your thing that you're supposed to do all day, every day. And it's really clearly defined where your job starts and where someone else's starts and stops. So, but in small business and, where we're at, that's not clearly defined. So whenever there's, whenever you're doing something, like there's a lot of stuff you're going to be doing that you're probably not good at.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things that we've had to learn is like, what is it that we stink at,
Mm-hmm.
and then go from there. And maybe that idea of the changeover box is sort of like hand that baton off. Like, don't drag it down.
Yeah.
Like you just had a call right now with another developer, right? So it's like, that's your changeover box. You're like, baton, toss, let's go, right? Why drag it out?
And you might lose even if you're handing off and you're like
yeah, you're holding back. You're like,
oh,
I don't know. Is this the right person?
This guy's like, come on, man. Like,
yeah, I'm ready to go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or it could be a metaphor too.
Yeah.
Right? Where it's like you're trying to get the business from here to here,
mm-hmm.
right? And you're afraid to hand it, to the next thing. You're just like hesitant.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
that hesitation could cost you the whole
always.
race.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
It's like just having faith in that handoff.
Yeah.
I think that's another important point.
Yeah.
Like have faith in handing it off.
Yeah. And I'm a perfectionist, so I always have that issue. Yeah,
we both have that.
Yeah.
I think.
So I'll tell
80%, baby.
80%. So I'll tell our little 80%
extra
thing.
credit.
And honestly, I should probably put the YouTube link up there, because a guy explains the 80% rule really well. And he basically says the idea is that you should just get to 80% when you're doing something, because and then sort of move on. And that's not to say that you're settling, but the idea is that 80% is probably where you're performing anyway. So get it, your normal day to day. Or if you think about it, this is how I sort of look at it. When I sort of look at a project or something, I'm like, how long should that take? That number that comes to my mind, 4 hours, 8 hours, whatever, that's the 80%. That's like my effort. Like, it's going to get done. The difference between 80% and 90% is literally the same amount that it took me to get to 80%. So if I'm in my head, I'm like, that should take 4 hours. That's 80%. If I want to get it to 90%, it's 8 hours, right? It's double that. And if I want to get it to 100%, it's 4x of what that 80% was. And that's just the truth. And so a lot of the times when I'm looking at my time management issues, it's because of that. It's because I sit down and by, schooling and work or whatnot, like, there's this sort of mentality that I can't send anything until it's 100%. And so I end up spending way more time than I really technically should to get it there. And the truth is, though, if you want to get it to that 100%, maybe that's, again, time to hand over the baton. Say, hey, can you take this and, really crank it up to somebody else? Or just say, you know what, if have that check-in, make sure it's good. And then if it really necessitates that extra effort, either by, the project or the budget, or you have that opportunity, then go for it. But what this guy said on the podcast or the video was, most people, your 80% is pretty dang solid if you're doing this as a profession. So most people, most people don't know the difference between your 80% and your 100%. You do. Yeah. But most people can't perceive it. Right. And so just as a judgment call, knowing what to sort of put in. But again, like, I think, going back to the baton toss, or what is it called? The relay? Relay. Yeah. Baton. What am I? The relay, I think knowing
it might be called a baton, though.
It could be, it's got to be something like that. Yeah. But I think, part of it is knowing what you're good at and what you should be doing, and recognizing that and knowing when to pass it on. And we've got a great team. We've got amazing people that I think are better at what we do than we were at it, And so now our role is, probably in that first round of baton running or relay race. We're the guys to get us off that starting line and get things moving. And then, as we progress, getting other people to finish the race. Yeah. And I don't know much about racing, but I can imagine that there's people that are strategically placed to sort of kick the race off. Yeah. That, could
sort of win that battle at the starting line. Mm-hmm. And then those that are the closers.
The closer,
you know?
yeah.
That are just like,
Yeah.
you know, balls out at the end.
Yeah.
You know?
It's just done.
So it's just like, there's just so much to draw from that, right? From that analogy that is so powerful. Whether that's you or to sort of have the, I guess, the self, you know, what do you call it? Awareness.
Yeah.
To know if it's you or not, or to sort of find someone to align yourself with that is potentially that closer, you know? And sometimes ego is a big part of some of the reasons we get stuck in that box as well.
That's
so
the main reason, I think. Yeah.
it could, very well be the main reason. I know it was for me, you know, when I was writing solo, that there was a little bit of pride that I had, you know, but it was just to fulfill my own ego. It wasn't for anything more. And nowadays, it's a lot different than 2011. I mean, you're exposed, you know, with all the social media outlets. So I think a lot of people are putting fronts out there as well. Like everything's dandy. You know, everybody's a baller. Yeah. Everybody's killing it.
Yeah.
Everybody's, you know, and it takes a lot of humility to sort of, you know, take a step back and say, you know what, I'm not there yet. You know, and to quote the words of Gary V here, you know, we get him props here because he puts out a lot of content.
The book of Gary V.
The book of Gary V. You know, and he says document the journey.
Yeah.
So I have no problem sitting here and exposing us. You know, it's like because we're gonna probably be sitting here in 40 years.
Yeah.
Doing the same thing. Yeah. So whatever.
Yeah, so, that's it. Yeah.
Good stuff.
Good stuff, man. That's it. That's great.
Yeah, so that's all we wanted to bring to you guys.
Some good nuggets.
Short and sweet, I hope, for some of you.
Get back
Tune
to
in
work.
next week. We're going to, like I said, we'll get inspired this weekend. One of us or both of us, and we'll hit you with some more nuggets next week. Send it to your friends, to your colleagues, and let us know what you think. Peace.
Later. That's nice.
Dude, that's fresh.